Dr. Elias Thorne, a man whose life was dedicated to the intricate dance of temporal mechanics, stood before the cranarium, a shimmering, pulsating sphere of energy contained within a reinforced chamber deep beneath the sprawling Chronos facility. He'd spent years, decades even, wrestling with the theoretical physics, the impossible equations, the frustratingly elusive nature of time itself. Tonight, however, was different. Tonight, the cranarium hummed with a newfound vibrancy, a resonance that whispered promises of success. Elias, a man of quiet intensity, with eyes that held the depth of the cosmos and hair prematurely silvered by the stress of his endeavors, adjusted the complex array of dials and readouts surrounding the sphere. He'd meticulously calculated every variable, accounted for every potential paradox, and double-checked every line of code 1,000 times. This was it. Tonight, he would attempt the first manned temporal jump. His target, 2342, a seemingly arbitrary year, chosen more for its distance from his present, 2042, than any specific historical significance. He'd reasoned that a century into the future would offer a glimpse into the long-term effects of societal and technological evolution, providing invaluable data for his research. He activated the cranarium. The sphere intensified, swirling with iridescent colors that defied description. A low hum grew into a resonant thrum, vibrating through the floor and up into Elias's very bones. He stepped onto the platform within the chamber, the cold metal a stark contrast to the heat radiating from the cranarium. He took a deep breath, the air thick with the scent of ozone and something else. Something indefinable, like the ghost of tomorrow. The world dissolved. Elias felt a sensation akin to being pulled through a narrow, twisting tunnel, his body stretched and compressed, his senses overloaded with flashes of light and distorted sounds. Then, just as abruptly as it began, it stopped. He stumbled, disoriented, onto solid ground. The cranarium, or what he assumed was the cranarium, was now a swirling vortex of purple and gold, hovering a few feet above the ground. He'd arrived. He looked around. Gone was the sterile, high-tech environment of the Chronos facility. Instead, he found himself in a bustling, open-air marketplace, the air alive with the chatter of a language he didn't understand, the scent of exotic spices, and the hum of levitating vehicles that zipped silently overhead. The buildings were sleek and organic, crafted from materials he couldn't identify, their surfaces shimmering with an ethereal glow. He was in the future. His initial awe quickly gave way to a sense of disorientation. He was dressed in 21st century clothing, utterly out of place in this futuristic tableau. He needed information, a way to understand this new reality, and, most importantly, a way to return to his own time. As he cautiously navigated the crowded marketplace, his attention was drawn to a small, unassuming stall tucked away in a corner. It was a stall filled with what looked like antique books and artifacts, a stark contrast to the advanced technology that surrounded it. Behind the stall stood a woman. She was unlike anyone Elias had ever seen. Her hair, the color of midnight, was pulled back in a simple braid, revealing a face of striking beauty. Her eyes, large and intelligent, were a vibrant shade of emerald green, and they seemed to hold a depth of knowledge that belied her apparent age. She wore a simple, flowing tunic of a deep indigo hue, adorned with intricate silver embroidery. Elias felt a pull towards her, an inexplicable connection that transcended the boundaries of time and culture. He approached the stall, his heart pounding in his chest. The woman looked up, her emerald eyes meeting his. A flicker of surprise, quickly masked by a polite smile, crossed her face. She spoke to him in the unfamiliar language, her voice melodic and soothing. Elias, of course, didn't understand a word. He gestured apologetically, indicating his confusion. The woman chuckled, a warm, inviting sound. "You, a traveler, aren't you?" she asked, this time in perfectly understandable English. Elias's eyes widened in surprise. "Yes," he managed to stammer. From the past." The woman's smile widened. "I know," she said. "I've been expecting you." Elias was stunned. "Expecting me? But How? That, the woman said, her eyes twinkling mischievously, is a long story. My name is Lyra, Elias introduced himself, still reeling from the shock of her knowing about him. He felt an immediate and powerful attraction to Lyra, a connection that seemed to resonate on a deeper level than anything he'd ever experienced. Lyra's knowledge of his arrival, her calm demeanor in the face of a time traveler, and her undeniable beauty captivated him. He spent the next few hours talking with her, or rather, trying to understand her. She spoke of the future with a casual familiarity that both fascinated and unnerved him. She explained the workings of the levitating vehicles, the organic architecture, and the complex social structures of 2342. She even hinted at the existence of technologies that were so advanced they were beyond his comprehension. As the day drew to a close, Elias knew he had to return to his own time. He'd gathered some preliminary data, enough to justify his trip, but he also knew he had to come back. He had to see Lyra again. He told her about the cranarium, about his research, about his need to return. Lyra listened intently, her expression unreadable. "Will you come back?" she asked when he finished. Elias looked into her emerald eyes, his heart aching with a longing he couldn't explain. "Yes," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I promise." Lyra smiled, a bittersweet smile that hinted at secrets and unspoken truths. "I'll be waiting," she said. Elias stepped back into the swirling vortex of the cranarium. The image of Lyra's face burned into his memory. He was leaving the future, but he was also leaving a part of himself behind. He was leaving his heart. The journey back was as disorienting as the trip forward. Elias was thrown and twisted through the temporal currents, his senses assaulted by the echoes of moments past and the whispers of futures yet to come. He landed heavily on the platform within the cranarium chamber, the swirling vortex dissipating into the familiar hum of the machine. He was back in 2042. The sterile, metallic environment of the Kronos facility felt strangely alien after the vibrant, organic world of 2342. He glanced at the chronometer. Only a few hours had passed in his own time, while he'd spent the better part of a day in the future. Time, he realized, was a fickle mistress. He stumbled off the platform, his legs still shaky from the temporal displacement. Dr. Anya Sharma, his closest colleague and confidant, rushed to his side, her face etched with concern. "Elias, you're back. Are you all right?" Elias nodded, still trying to reconcile the two realities he'd experienced. I'm fine, Anya. It worked." Anya's eyes widened. "It worked? You actually went?" "I did," Elias confirmed, a hint of wonder in his voice. "I saw the future, Anya. It's incredible." He spent the next few days poring over the data he'd collected, analyzing the subtle shifts in the temporal field, the readings from the cranarium, and the fragmented images he'd managed to capture during his brief sojourn. The data was inconclusive, tantalizingly close to revealing the secrets of time travel, but still just out of reach. He needed more information, more data points. He needed to go back. But there was another reason driving him, a more personal, more compelling reason. He needed to see Lyra again. He couldn't shake the memory of her emerald eyes, her gentle smile, the feeling of connection he'd felt with her. He was falling in love with a woman from the future, a woman he barely knew, a woman who existed a century removed from his own time. The absurdity of it wasn't lost on him, yet the feeling was undeniable. He began making preparations for another jump, tweaking the cranarium's parameters, refining his calculations. Anya watched him with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "Elias," she said one evening, her voice laced with concern, "are you sure about this? Going back so soon, it's risky. We don't fully understand the long-term effects of temporal displacement." "I know, Anya," Elias replied, his gaze fixed on the cranarium. "But I have to go back. Is it because of the data?" Anya asked hesitantly. Elias hesitated. He couldn't bring himself to tell her about Lyra. It sounded too fantastical, too unbelievable. "Partly," he said finally. "But there's something else. Something I can't explain. Anya sighed. She knew Elias well enough to understand that arguing with him was futile when he'd made up his mind. Just be careful, Elias, she said. Time is a delicate thing. One wrong step, one small alteration, and the consequences could be catastrophic. Elias nodded. He knew the risks, but the pull of the future, the pull of Lyra, was too strong to resist. He set the cranarium for 2342, the same date as his previous visit. He stepped onto the platform, his heart pounding with anticipation and a touch of trepidation. He activated the machine, and the world dissolved once more. He arrived back in the bustling marketplace, the sights and sounds of the future washing over him. He immediately searched for Lyra's stall, his eyes scanning the crowd. But it wasn't there. The corner where he'd met her was now occupied by a holographic clothing store, its displays flashing with futuristic designs. Panic began to set in. Had he made a mistake? Had he altered something in the timeline? He rushed through the marketplace, asking about Lyra, but no one recognized her name. It was as if she'd never existed. He returned to the spot where her stall had been, his mind racing. He remembered the intricate silver embroidery on her tunic. He focused his attention on the holographic display, looking for anything that resembled the pattern he remembered. And then he saw it, a small, almost imperceptible detail in one of the holographic designs. It was the same embroidery. He examined the display more closely. It was an advertisement for a museum, the Museum of Ancient Futures, located on the outskirts of the city. The advertisement featured a brief glimpse of an exhibit showcasing traditional clothing from the past. And there, among the displayed garments, was a tunic identical to the one Lyra had worn. Hope flickered in his chest. He had a lead. He rushed to the museum, his heart pounding with renewed anticipation. He found the exhibit, his eyes scanning the displays. And then he saw her. Not Lyra herself, but a holographic image of her, standing beside the tunic. A small plaque beneath the image read, Lyra, historian and archivist, 2301-2367. Elias stared at the plaque, his mind reeling. 2301-2367. Lyra wasn't just a vendor in the marketplace. She was a historian, and she had lived and died decades before his arrival. He had met her ghost, a holographic echo of a woman who had passed away long ago. The realization hit him like a physical blow. His connection with Lyra, the love he felt for her, was a paradox, a temporal anomaly. She was a memory, a ghost in the machine, a woman who existed in the past of his future. His love for her was a love that spanned centuries, a love that defied the very nature of time itself. And it was a love that could never be. The revelation of Lyra's true nature, her existence as a historical figure, left Elias reeling. He wandered through the Museum of Ancient Futures, his mind lost in a whirlwind of confusion and grief. He had fallen in love with a ghost, a holographic echo of a woman who had lived and died long before he was even born. The irony of it all was almost unbearable. He spent hours in front of Lyra's holographic image, studying her face, her expressions, trying to glean some understanding of her life, her thoughts, her feelings. He learned that she was a renowned historian, specializing in the 21st century, his own time. She had dedicated her life to understanding the past, little knowing that one day, a man from that past would fall in love with her echo. He discovered that Lyra had written extensively about the challenges of the 21st century, the environmental crises, the social upheavals, the technological advancements that had shaped her future. Her writings resonated with him, her insights into his own time eerily prescient. It was as if she had known him, had understood him, even before they met. He also learned about her death. She had died at the age of 66, a respected and beloved figure in her time. The cause of her death was not mentioned, but Elias couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. He had missed her, not just in the temporal sense, but in the most fundamental way possible. He had missed her life. He left the museum with a heavy heart, the image of Lyra's holographic face etched into his memory. He knew he couldn't stay in 2342. There was nothing for him there, not anymore. Lyra was gone, a whisper of the past, a ghost in the future. He returned to 2042, his mind still reeling from the emotional rollercoaster of his journey. Anya was waiting for him, her face filled with concern. "Elias, what happened? You look different." Elias sighed. "I met her, Anya," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I met Lyra." Anya's eyebrows furrowed. "And she's not who I thought she was," Elias explained, his voice thick with emotion. She was a historian. She died decades before I was even born." Anya stared at him, her expression a mixture of confusion and disbelief. "Elias, are you saying you fell in love with a woman from the past of the future?" Elias nodded, a single tear rolling down his cheek. "It's absurd, I know," he said. "But it's true." Anya didn't say anything for a moment, then she put a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Elias," she said gently, "I don't pretend to understand what you're going through. But if she was a historian, maybe there's a way to learn more about her." Elias looked at her, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. "You're right," he said. "If she studied the 21st century, she must have left behind records, archives, research papers." He threw himself into researching Lyra's life, scouring historical databases, academic journals, anything that might shed light on her life and work. He discovered that she was indeed a prominent historian, her work widely respected and influential. He found her published books, her research papers, even some personal letters and journals. He devoured everything he could find, eager to learn more about the woman he had fallen in love with. He read her words, listened to her voice in holographic recordings of her lectures, and felt a deeper connection to her with every passing day. He learned about her passions, her beliefs, her hopes for the future. He discovered that she was a strong advocate for environmental protection, a fierce defender of social justice, and a passionate believer in the power of human connection. She was everything he admired, everything he longed for in a partner. But she was also gone. A ghost, a memory, a love that could never be. He continued his research, not just for the sake of his feelings for Lyra, but also for the sake of his work. He realized that Lyra's insights into the 21st century were invaluable. Her understanding of the challenges and opportunities facing his time could help him refine his own research, perhaps even find a way to prevent some of the catastrophes she had written about. He began to see his time travel research in a new light. It wasn't just about exploring the future. It was about understanding the past, learning from the mistakes of previous generations, and building a better future for everyone. It was about honoring Lyra's legacy, carrying on her work, and striving to create the world she had believed in. He knew he could never be with Lyra, not in the way he had hoped. But he could keep her memory alive, keep her spirit alive, by dedicating his life to the same ideals she had championed. He could love her, not in the flesh, but in his heart, in his actions, in his commitment to making the world a better place. His love for Lyra, a love that spanned centuries, had given him a new purpose, a new direction. He would continue his research, not just for himself, but for her, for the future she had believed in, for the love that transcended time itself. Years passed. Elias, driven by his love for Lyra and his commitment to her ideals, became a leading figure in the field of temporal mechanics. He refined the cranarium, making it safer and more precise, though he never again attempted a jump to 2342. The pain of knowing Lyra was beyond his reach was still too raw. Instead, he focused on the past, studying historical events, analyzing societal trends, searching for clues that might help him understand the present and shape a better future. He became a vocal advocate for environmental protection and social justice, echoing the themes that had been so important to Lyra. He used his knowledge of the future, gleaned from her writings and his own brief glimpse, to warn of potential dangers and propose solutions to the challenges facing his time. He became, in a way, Lyra's voice in the 21st century, carrying her message forward. Anya remained his constant companion and colleague, her support unwavering. She understood his grief, his love for Lyra, even though she couldn't fully comprehend it. She admired his dedication, his transformation from a driven scientist to a man with a purpose beyond scientific achievement. One evening, while Elias was working late in the cranarium chamber, reviewing some data from a recent historical study, he noticed something strange. A faint energy signature was emanating from the cranarium, a subtle hum that he hadn't detected before. It wasn't the usual hum of the machine when it was active, but something different, almost sentient. He approached the cranarium cautiously, his senses on high alert. The hum grew louder, the energy signature intensifying. He ran a diagnostic scan, but the results were inconclusive. The cranarium was functioning normally, yet this anomaly persisted. He reached out and touched the cool surface of the sphere. As his fingers made contact, a surge of energy pulsed through him, and he saw a flash of images, fragmented and fleeting, but undeniably familiar. He saw the marketplace in 2342, the holographic clothing store, the Museum of Ancient Futures, and then, a glimpse of Lyra. She wasn't a hologram. She was real, standing in her stall in the marketplace, her emerald eyes meeting his. She smiled, a warm, genuine smile that sent a shiver down his spine. Then, the image vanished. Elias's relentless pursuit of the cranarium's whisper led him down a rabbit hole of theoretical physics and esoteric concepts. He delved into the works of forgotten philosophers, ancient mystics, and cutting-edge quantum physicists, searching for a framework to understand the strange phenomenon he had experienced. He began to suspect that time wasn't just a river flowing in one direction, but a vast, interconnected ocean, with currents and eddies, whirlpools and still pools. He theorized that the cranarium, in its own way, was tapping into these currents, allowing glimpses into moments that were not strictly sequential. He discovered fragments of ancient texts that spoke of time weavers, individuals who could manipulate the fabric of time, not by traveling through it, but by weaving together different moments, creating connections across centuries. These texts described a loom of time, a metaphorical device that could be used to mend tears in the temporal fabric, to reunite souls separated by time. Elias, ever the scientist, tried to find a scientific basis for these mystical concepts. He theorized that the cranarium, under the right conditions, could potentially act as a kind of loom, allowing him to connect with Lyra, not in a physical sense, but on a deeper, more spiritual level. He began to modify the cranarium, adding new components, refining the energy conduits, and creating a complex array of resonating crystals. Anya watched him with a mixture of awe and trepidation. "Elias," she said one day, "what are you doing? This is beyond anything we've ever attempted." "I know, Anya," Elias replied, his eyes filled with a strange light. "But I have to try. I have to know if it's possible." "Possible?" Anya asked. "Possible to do what?" Elias's relentless pursuit of the cranarium's whisper led him down a rabbit hole of theoretical physics and esoteric concepts. He delved into the works of forgotten philosophers, ancient mystics, and cutting-edge quantum physicists, searching for a framework to understand the strange phenomenon he had experienced. He began to suspect that time wasn't just a river flowing in one direction, but a vast, interconnected ocean, with currents and eddies, whirlpools and still pools. He theorized that the cranarium, in its own way, was tapping into these currents, allowing glimpses into moments that were not strictly sequential. He discovered fragments of ancient texts that spoke of time weavers, individuals who could manipulate the fabric of time, not by traveling through it, but by weaving together different moments, creating connections across centuries. These texts described a loom of time, a metaphorical device that could be used to mend tears in the temporal fabric, to reunite souls separated by time. Elias, ever the scientist, tried to find a scientific basis for these mystical concepts. He theorized that the cranarium, under the right conditions, could potentially act as a kind of loom, allowing him to connect with Lyra, not in a physical sense, but on a deeper, more spiritual level. He began to modify the cranarium, adding new components, refining the energy conduits, and creating a complex array of resonating crystals. Anya watched him with a mixture of awe and trepidation. "Elias," she said one day, "what are you doing? This is beyond anything we've ever attempted." "I know, Anya," Elias replied, his eyes filled with a strange light. "But I have to try. I have to know if it's possible." "Possible?" Anya asked. "Possible to do what?" "To connect with Lyra," Elias said softly. "Not just to see her, but to bridge the gap between us." Anya stared at him, her expression a mixture of disbelief and concern. "Elias, you're talking about something that's not scientifically possible." "Maybe not according to our current understanding of science," Elias said. "But what if our understanding is incomplete? What if there's more to time, more to consciousness, than we realize?" Anya sighed. She knew that arguing with Elias was pointless when he was in this state. "Just be careful, Elias," she said. "You're playing with forces you don't understand." Elias nodded, his attention already back on the cranarium. He activated the machine, the resonating crystals humming with a soft, ethereal glow. The cranarium began to vibrate, not with the usual energy of temporal displacement, but with a different kind of energy, a gentle, pulsating energy that seemed to resonate with his very soul. He closed his eyes, focusing his mind, his heart, on Lyra. He imagined her face, her voice, her laughter. He remembered the feeling of connection he had felt with her in the marketplace, the love that had blossomed across the chasm of time. Suddenly, he felt a presence, a warmth, a sense of recognition. He opened his eyes, and he saw her. Lyra was standing before him, not as a hologram, but as a real, tangible presence. She was no longer the young vendor from the marketplace, nor the holographic image from the museum. She was different, older, wiser, with a gentle serenity in her eyes. "Elias," she said, her voice soft and familiar. Elias's heart pounded in his chest. "Lyra," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. Lyra smiled. "Yes, Elias, it's me. But how?" Elias stammered. "How is this possible? Time is not a barrier, Elias," Lyra said. "It's a bridge. We are connected, you and I, across the centuries. Our souls are intertwined, woven together by the threads of fate." "But I saw you in the museum," Elias said. "I saw your death date." Lyra nodded. "That was one possible future, Elias. But time is fluid, constantly shifting and changing. The future is not fixed. It is a tapestry woven from countless possibilities." "And this is another possibility?" Elias asked. "Yes," Lyra said. "A possibility that you have created, Elias, with your love, your dedication, your belief in the power of connection." Elias reached out and touched her hand. It was real, warm, solid. He couldn't explain it. He didn't understand the science behind it, but he didn't care. He was with Lyra, in some way, in some place, beyond the constraints of time. "I missed you," Elias said, tears streaming down his face. "I missed you too, Elias," Lyra replied. "But I was always with you, in your heart, in your memories, in your dreams." "But what now?" Elias asked. "What happens now?" Lyra smiled, a mysterious, knowing smile. "That, Elias," she said, "is for you to decide." Elias stood with Lyra, suspended in a moment that defied the very laws of physics, a crossroads of time where past, present, and future converged. He looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw not just the woman he had fallen in love with, but the woman she had become, a being woven from time and memory, a spirit connected to him across the ages. "What do you mean, for me to decide?" Elias asked, his voice filled with wonder and a touch of fear. Lyra took his hand, her touch sending a shiver of warmth through him. "You have opened a door, Elias," she said. "A door to possibilities. You can choose to stay here, in this liminal space, with me, outside of time. Or you can return to your own time, carrying the knowledge, the love, the inspiration that you have found." Elias looked around at the swirling vortex of colors that surrounded them, the echoes of moments past and future whispering through the air. He could feel the pull of his own time, the familiar rhythm of his life, but he also felt the pull of Lyra, the connection that transcended time itself. If I stay here, he asked, what will happen? Will we be together? Lyra smiled sadly. We will be together, in a way, she said. But not in the way you might imagine. This space is outside of time. We will exist as echoes, memories, fragments of moments. We will be together, but we will not be living. Elias considered her words. He loved Lyra. He yearned to be with her, but he also knew that he had a responsibility to his own time, to the world he lived in. He had learned so much from Lyra, from her writings, from their brief encounters, and he knew that he had a duty to use that knowledge to make a difference. And if I return? He asked. If you return, Lyra said, you will carry my spirit with you. You will live your life, but you will also live a part of mine. You will continue my work, my passions, my dreams. You will be my legacy. Elias thought of Anya, his loyal colleague, his friend. He thought of the Kronos facility, the research he had dedicated his life to. He thought of the challenges facing his time, the environmental crises, the social injustices that Lyra had so passionately fought against. He looked at Lyra, her eyes filled with love and understanding. He knew what he had to do. I have to go back, he said finally. Lyra nodded, a single tear rolling down her cheek. I know, she said. But know this, Elias. I will always be with you. In your heart, in your memories, in your actions. Our connection transcends time. It is eternal. Elias took her hand one last time, feeling the warmth of her touch, the strength of her spirit. He closed his eyes, remembering every detail of her face, every nuance of her voice, every moment they had shared. He imprinted her onto his soul, a permanent mark, a love that would never fade. He opened his eyes, and Lyra was gone. He was alone in the swirling vortex, the crossroads of time dissolving around him. He felt the pull of his own time, the familiar rhythm of his life calling him back. He stepped through the doorway, back into the flow of time, back to 2042. He found himself standing in the cranium chamber, Anya rushing to his side, her face etched with worry. Elias, what happened? You were gone for so long. Elias looked at her, his eyes filled with a newfound peace. I saw her, Anya, he said softly. I saw Lyra. Anya's eyebrows furrowed. And she's with me, Elias said. Not in the way I had hoped, but in a way that's even more profound. She's in my heart, in my memories, in my purpose. Anya looked at him, her expression softening. She didn't fully understand what had happened, but she could see the change in him. He was no longer the driven, obsessed scientist. He was a man with a mission, a man filled with love and purpose. What will you do now, Elias? She asked. Elias smiled. I will continue my work, he said. I will continue Lyra's work. I will use my knowledge, my skills, to make the world a better place. I will honor her legacy by living a life worthy of her love. He looked at the cranium, no longer a machine of temporal exploration, but a symbol of connection, a reminder of the love that transcended time. He knew that he would never forget Lyra, that her spirit would guide him, inspire him, for the rest of his days. He would carry her with him, always, a love that spanned centuries, a love that was eternal. Elias dedicated his life to fulfilling the promise he made to Lyra, the promise to carry her spirit forward, to live a life worthy of her love. He continued his research, but with a renewed focus. He wasn't just exploring time anymore. He was trying to understand it, to unravel its secrets, not for the sake of scientific advancement, but for the sake of humanity. He sought to understand the past to heal the present and safeguard the future, echoing Lyra's own historical pursuits. He became a powerful advocate for environmental sustainability, using his knowledge of future consequences to inspire action in the present. He warned of the dangers of unchecked technological advancement, the potential for misuse, the importance of ethical considerations. He spoke with passion and conviction, his words carrying the weight of Lyra's wisdom, the echo of her voice resonating through his own. He also championed social justice, fighting for equality and opportunity for all. He believed, as Lyra did, in the inherent worth of every human being, regardless of their background or circumstances. He used his influence to promote understanding and compassion, to bridge the divides that separated people. Anya remained by his side, his closest confidant and collaborator. She witnessed his transformation, the quiet intensity that had always been a part of him now infused with a sense of purpose, a quiet joy. She understood, without him ever explicitly saying it, that Lyra was the driving force behind his actions. She saw Lyra's influence in his choices, in his words, in the unwavering dedication he showed to his work. Elias never forgot Lyra. Her memory was a constant presence in his life, a guiding light. He often visited the archives at the Kronos facility, searching for any additional information about her life, her thoughts, her dreams. He found solace in reading her research papers, listening to her lectures, feeling her presence in the words she had left behind. One day, while reviewing some newly declassified documents, Elias stumbled upon a personal journal belonging to Lyra. It was a small, leather-bound book, its pages filled with her elegant handwriting. He carefully opened it and began to read. Lyra wrote about her passion for history, her fascination with the 21st century, her belief in the resilience of the human spirit. She wrote about her hopes for the future, her fears for the challenges that lay ahead. And then, she wrote about him. She described her encounter with a man from the past, a man with eyes that held the depth of the cosmos, a man who had come to her time seeking answers. She wrote about the connection she felt with him, a connection that transcended time and space. She wrote about the love that had blossomed between them, a love that defied the very nature of reality. She wrote about the choice she had made, the choice to return to the flow of time, to allow him to live his life, to carry her spirit forward. She wrote about her belief that their love was eternal, that it would continue to exist, not in the physical world, but in the realm of the soul. Elias read her words, tears streaming down his face. He finally understood. Lyra had known, she had always known, the depth of their connection, the power of their love. She had made her choice, not just for him, but for the future, for the world. He closed the journal, his heart filled with gratitude and love. He knew that Lyra was with him, always, in the deepest part of his soul. Their love was a love beyond time, a love that had shaped his life, a love that would continue to inspire him until his dying day. He continued his work, his passion undiminished, his purpose clear. He lived a long and fulfilling life, dedicated to making the world a better place, a world worthy of Lyra's love, a world where their love could echo through the ages, a testament to the enduring power of human connection, a love that transcended time itself. And as he grew old, he knew, with a certainty that warmed him from the inside out, that when his time came, he would find her again, somewhere beyond the crossroads of time, and their love story, begun across the centuries, would continue, eternally.